sometimes it's a self-worth thing. And it's like, I'm not good enough to ask for $1,000 for my services. I don't know enough. I can't provide enough. It's either, okay, that's a mindset thing and you need to realize your worth, or maybe you actually can't provide something that's worth $1,000 yet and you need to go practice and learn and get better, and then you can after that. So it's really just kind of figuring out what those blockages are, like what's holding you back from where you want to be. And in order to figure that out, you have to figure out, where do you want to be?
Hi, Bill. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Good to be here.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Feeling some stuff this morning, but overall I'm good.
What are you feeling? Should we get straight into it?
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it. What are you feeling, Bill? Great way to start with us here.
Oh, it's complicated, but I've been working a lot lately and having an interesting relationship with my work. Because as a business founder, I run 2 companies, and my most recent one, Focus Founders, is a passion project. And I want it to continue to be a passion project, but it's also a lot of work. And so I'm getting to this point where it's like, I love what I do, but I also feel the need to like take a bit of a step back and kind of revisit why I'm doing what I'm doing and making sure that I'm not burning myself out going forward.
I see. Okay. Is it like a situation that you feel like you're still getting something back from it? Or are you struggling with that because maybe financially you just kind of started this and it's not maybe providing some additional motivation through return on investment? Let's put it that way. Like, I guess I'm curious what the ROI would need to be for you to feel motivated. Because if it's a passion project, I would hope that you'd feel motivated to do it. So I'm curious, why that's not there for you at the moment.
No, it is there. Don't get me wrong. The passion's absolutely still there. You just caught me during an off week. If we had this conversation a week ago, it would have started very differently. I would have been like, yeah, I'm doing great. Like, things are awesome. But that's just part of entrepreneurship. Like, you've got your ups and downs. Financially, it is giving returns, but I definitely, the amount of hours I'm putting in versus the amount of money I'm getting back are not nearly equivalent yet.
Yeah.
And that's to be expected for any new business. Like, you start something new and it takes time to actually see the return.
Oh, yeah. I think any entrepreneurship and not entrepreneurship too, it's always a question of like, what do you get back? In corporate world too, it's the same story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool.
So tell us a little bit about what is Focus Founders and what it is that you do.
Yeah, totally. So Focus Founders, me and my co-founder Rex started it because we're both really passionate about coaching entrepreneurs and helping them to find more focus in their life. I used to work with, and still do work with, neurodivergent entrepreneurs, people with ADHD and autism and that kind of thing. And it can be so easy to get distracted and to chase the shiny object and to start a new business and then another new business and another new business. I've worked with clients who have 5 different companies, and they're trying to do a little bit on each one of those at the same time. And it's like, it's fun, but it's not gonna bring you that return that we're talking about. Like, you gotta focus. And so that's why we created Focus Founders, is to help entrepreneurs dial in on the one thing that's gonna make them that return and help them build a life that they love.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I mean, I would say, I would argue there's a lot of people out there, like successful founders and entrepreneurs. Like Elon Musk is probably the most popular example, but there's a bunch of other examples of people who want to put their hands in multiple buckets, and so I guess, where do you draw the line for yourself for clients who are like, because I get it, I totally get it. Like, if you're spread too thin, that you're trying to be like a jack of all trades instead of like a master of one, then it can drain you. It can be difficult to focus. And so, you need to do certain things for a certain business to have it be successful, but you just don't have the energy, you don't have the motivation, you don't have the finances. So I totally get being smart with like your bandwidth and how you're going to use that energy in the right space. But yeah, I guess I'm just curious because, I find myself in this boat too. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people. I've talked to a lot of people kind of in my circle too, who are interested in putting their hands in all these different buckets. Like, they get excited about a lot of different types of things. So do you work with people where it's like, okay, if you are excited about a bunch of things, let's focus on one for like a certain amount of time and get into a certain place, and then we can kind of like slowly cascade it from there? Like, how do you kind of deal with that? I guess just realistically for a lot of these people.
Yeah, for sure. So I work with people where they're at, and sometimes people aren't in a place where they're ready to just dive all in on one thing. And I get that because as an entrepreneur, I've created over 8 different businesses over the last 10 years. Um, 3 of which were successful. The other 5 ended up costing me money or breaking even. Um, and I think there's something to be said about following your passion and following where your heart leads. Because at least for me personally, I can build a successful business that makes a lot of money, and I have. I've built several six-figure companies in the past. Um, but the times where I was the most successful was when I followed the thing that I was the most interested and passionate about. And maybe that's an ADHD thing. Maybe it's, just because it's good to follow where your heart leads. I don't really know, but I know it works for me and it works for my clients. So my answer to that question is typically we'll figure out, okay, what's the one thing that you're either the most passionate about or that will make you money in the short term that will then give you the resources to put that into other things.
Yeah, that's funny. I guess I got a couple responses to that. I think the interesting part about that is, so totally agree. Um, I think how we can tell, or let's say if we're trying to guide someone to like figure out what they're really excited about, is simply like watch your actions, right? And like watch what you do, because usually what you're most excited about, you take the most action towards. So if someone's trying to figure out like, what do I really enjoy and what's my purpose and what's my passion? It's like, well, what do you spend a lot of time doing, you know? So yeah, that's my main.
For me, I find myself editing reels while I need to be doing agency role for this. And so that's how I know that I care about it and I have passion for it. I'm curious, Bill, your main differentiator is that you work with entrepreneurs that have ADHD and stuff. ADHD, right?
ADHD, yeah, right?
Can you elaborate why specifically these people and why what is like the passion around behind that?
Yeah, totally. So I'm super passionate about working with neurodivergent people because I'm neurodivergent. Most of my best friends are neurodivergent. And I had a really difficult childhood, really difficult upbringing. I was bullied a lot because my brain worked so much differently than everyone else's. I was always told I was too much, but then I was also told I was lazy because I couldn't focus on things that I found were boring. And it caused so much stress and so much, like the sign behind me right here, I am enough. The reason I have that sign is because I didn't used to feel like I was enough. And it was like a reminder to myself that um, just because I can be really hyper or just because I can have a struggle to focus on things that I find boring, just because I am different and like being weird doesn't mean I'm not enough. And it doesn't mean that I don't deserve happiness or joy or love or whatever. Um, and so I guess bringing it back to why I'm passionate about working with neurodivergent people, it's because we all struggle with these similar types of things, or we're just misunderstood and we're called lazy, or we feel like we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, whatever. Um, and that just isn't the case. Most of us are actually extremely intelligent. It's just that we grew up in a society where you're supposed to sit in a seat and listen to a teacher for 8 hours a day. And then you go to a job and you sit in a cubicle and stare at a screen for 8 hours a day. And it's like, that doesn't work for our brains, but that doesn't mean we're broken. It just means we need to do something different.
I know that you're offering coaching, and I'm curious how does that look like? What are the tools that you bring to these types of people?
A couple of things. Number one is community. Because we're all entrepreneurs and most of us are neurodivergent in some way, it's like all people that you can relate to. And so that alone is just such a blessing because a lot of people don't have that. Especially as entrepreneurs, a lot of us are solopreneurs and we're just sitting in a house by ourselves, staring at a computer screen. And it's like people just don't understand that and they don't get what we do. So community is huge for just feeling like you can talk about the things that you're struggling with and people can relate and provide advice and stuff like that. Beyond that, I've found lots of different strategies like body doubling. So we do virtual co-working every morning. And then we also do in-person co-working here in Austin. And so the co-working started because I love co-working with people. So body doubling, for those who aren't familiar, it's basically just having another body in the room with you while you're doing a task to make yourself focus on that task more easily. So you can use that with working on a computer, you can use it with cleaning your house, with cooking, whatever. Just having someone around. Like a lot of times I'll clean my closet while I'm like on the phone with somebody, and being on the phone makes me not think about how I'm cleaning and I don't want to be doing it. So it's stimulating part of my brain enough that I can just do the thing without being like, I don't want to do the thing. So yeah, the co-working virtual and in person is a big part of it. And then the coaching aspect is more so just teaching people a couple different things. So there's the business coaching part of it. I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years. My partner Rex has also been an entrepreneur for about 10 years. So we've got 20 years of entrepreneurship experience. Both of us have built 6-figure companies, have had 5-figure months. So we know a lot about just general business stuff. But then there is like the mindset part of it too. So it's holding you accountable. You do daily reflections and check-ins every single day with us and prioritizing the right things. A lot of times we have, multiple businesses or one business, but we wear all of the hats in that business. We're doing marketing, we're doing development, we're doing sales, the list goes on. And it's about prioritizing and figuring out, okay, what are the highest leverage actions I can take and how do I do them? And then the last component is you're doing the right things, you're being held accountable, but you're hitting blockages where it's like, I can't figure this thing out. How do I actually do the thing? And then we help you to learn how to figure that out for yourself so you can think like an entrepreneur.
Love that. Yeah. Sounds like a normal, regular entrepreneur like me can gain value from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can be really isolating to sit on the computer all day alone at home. How has it been like your experience moving to Austin, finding your grounds here, setting this up, like building businesses here and just becoming a part of the community?
Yeah. So I'll give a little bit of background here so the listener knows. I'm from Pennsylvania originally. I grew up there, but I've lived all over the country. I lived in a van for a few years. I've traveled around a lot. And I just moved to Austin in October of last year. So it's like 6 or 7 months ago. Actually, no, it's longer than that. 8 months? I don't even know. It's crazy. Time flies. But yeah, so I'm new to Austin. And when I came here, I basically came here out of intuition. I was needing a change. I was living in San Diego for a couple months and was like ready to go somewhere new. Had a couple of places in mind, but Austin just felt like there was something there for me. And it was hard to like really explain what that was. It was just really this intuitive pull towards it. I only knew one other person that lived here, and that was it. And so when I moved here, he was the only person I knew, and he wasn't even here when I got here for the first few weeks. He was traveling. So it was just me alone in a new city without knowing anybody. Um, and in less than a year, I already have more community, more friends here in Austin than anywhere I've ever lived. And like I said, I've lived in a lot of places. I've lived in over a dozen different cities across the country. Um, and building a business here has been just amazing. Like, I don't know what it is about it. It's because I had to go through that period of being really alone and not having anyone. I did a lot of like internal stuff, went to a therapist, just did a lot of really deep internal work. And that work helped me to realize the leader in me. And so this coaching business, my word of 2025 is leadership. And so what I've been trying to do is learn how to become a better leader, how to become somebody that, steps up in their communities and to create a community. And that's kind of what led me to Focus Founders was that desire to build a community and to help other people and be involved and explore the city. So yeah, it's been going great, I guess, is to answer your question.
It's amazing. I saw that you have a question for on the latest week?
Well, I was just curious. I guess that's a question I can ask down the road. So thanks for that intro. It's also, I think there's a lot of people who resonate with that story, especially coming to Austin and kind of creating something. There's something about this city. There's so many people who moved here intuitively, like myself included. Yeah. So we all kind of resonate with that. I guess my question is more focused on like the mindset piece of you working with these folks. Obviously, community is a huge part. Sometimes it's a preference thing, right? Some people like working with others, some people don't like working with others, but I'm curious, like your mindset piece. And I know you and I share, by the way, I met Bill through you because you guys are friends and you've known each other for a little bit of time. And I met Bill, and Bill was chatting with me about an NLP course coming up. There's a certification course in NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. It's a really cool ways. The science of it, I think, goes back to like 1960s or 70s, something like that, as a few doctors kind of came together and running really cool experiments, quote unquote, in Stanford, I think is kind of where it started. The whole point is that if you like, everyone kind of works a bit differently. And some people, the way that your internal world works is that sometimes you create pictures and sometimes you use words to explain certain events. And so there's like little things about verbal communication, also nonverbal communication. Actually, the latest studies show that when we communicate, about like 95% of that is nonverbal, which is really, really interesting. But part of what NLP does, and I'm taking kind of a long track to get to this question, but part of what NLP does, it helps you just relate to someone else by understanding like how they think and what they're thinking so that you can communicate with them and process information with them, ideally to help them move forward any stumbling blocks or limiting beliefs. It's a great tool, I think, to use on yourself. And then as a practitioner, kind of can help with other people. So there's a training coming up, I guess, in a few weeks. I'm really excited about going to because it will, I think, help us. It will get us certified in NLP and to be practitioners in that modality. I'm just curious from your perspective, are there those types of tools? Are there ways that you use to communicate with people? What's your favorite like modality to help people get through like a limiting belief? It sounds kind of like that's what you're into, right? It's like someone comes to you, like who's the person that comes to you? I assume they come to you, they have an issue with their business, they're having trouble focusing, they're not growing the way that they want. Say, hey, Bill, I've got issues. The business isn't going as I planned. I could use your help. Like, what is some of that mindset support that you kind of bring? I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So I mean, as you said, I'm going to be taking this NLP course, which is going to be fascinating. I'm super excited to learn more about it. But as far as specific modalities, I don't really have any particular modality that I use with my clients. It's kind of a mix of just things that I've learned throughout the years as an entrepreneur, as someone who's had limiting beliefs and who's had to overcome that. A lot of it's around like money mindset blockages, like beliefs around money. We hear, oh, money doesn't grow on trees and, common phrases like this, but these things stick around in the back of our brains and kind of get buried back there. And we don't realize that they're kind of running the show. And so sometimes it'll be just as simple as like, there's a money mindset block. Sometimes it's a self-worth thing. And it's like, I'm not good enough to ask for $1,000 for my services. I don't know enough. I can't provide enough. And so it's either, okay, that's a mindset thing and you need to realize your worth, or maybe you actually can't provide something that's worth $1,000 yet. And you need to go practice and learn and get better. And then you can after that. So it's really just kind of figuring out what those blockages are, like what's holding you back from where you want to be. And in order to figure that out, you have to figure out where do you want to be? A lot of the first steps that we do involve figuring out that vision of like, what do you actually want? What don't you want? And creating that vision so that way you have something to work towards. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I really appreciate that. It's interesting because I think that ties into so much of our conversations on the podcast. Like, Bill, I know you've watched the show and you've seen previous guests. A lot of the conversations we have is about like subconscious programming and the fact that in large part, a reality is a combination of the stories we tell ourselves, right? That's the reason you have that sign behind you, like I am enough, but that's a new story. Maybe there's an old story that says I'm not enough, or like you said, I'm not unworthy, or money doesn't grow on trees. It's a very limiting thought of like, okay, I need to save up and I need to keep what's mine, right? Instead of using the word like currency, which I love. That's such a helpful word to use. Currency. It's like a river, right? It flows like blood. So it's the words that we use that create the stories in our head. And I guess is it okay? I got to follow up.
Absolutely.
I think so for me, and this is a paradoxical question, so I totally understand if this is going to be difficult to answer. But if we continue with that understanding and we conceptualize and understand that our reality is a combination of the stories we tell ourselves, how I'm curious, like how you handle the delineation between someone using a term like ADHD and saying to themselves, like, I am neurodivergent, I'm different, I've got these issues, this is what I struggle with. At the same time, like not having that be a pigeonhole, like not having that be a diagnosis, not having that be a story, right? So if we're in agreement that kind of the stories make up our world and we can use different terms, we can use different pictures to create the reality that ultimately we desire, how do we balance this idea of like, yes, I've got issues and I'm working through things and I'm struggling, but also like that doesn't define me?
Yeah, great question. I actually love this question. So I don't think ADHD is a disorder at all. I know it's technically attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is what it's called, but I don't view it as a disorder, same as I don't view neurodivergence as there being anything wrong with me. I just think it's a different way that I think and behave compared to what society and social norms say are normal. And so I think that that's where the mindset shift is don't view neurodivergence or ADHD or these problems that you have as, oh, there's something wrong with me. View them as, oh, this is a lesson that's trying to be taught to me, or this is a new way that I can view the world, that if I just make a few small changes, then it makes everything else so much easier. Like, I'll give you an example. So, um, me and my co-founder once got into a conversation about ADHD, and he said, I just don't want to, and I'm paraphrasing here, this isn't exactly what he said, but I don't want you to use ADHD as an excuse or feel like you're a victim to ADHD. And the thing is, I never viewed myself as a victim there. And so the reason that he said that was because I got distracted over something and I said, "Oh yeah, I had an ADHD moment. I got distracted. Like I forgot to do that thing. My bad." And it's easy to see how, oh, that ADHD is bad because it caused me to forget this and get distracted. But really what that gave me was an opportunity to then say, "Okay, I forgot that. How can I not forget something like that in the future?" And so it was as simple as like setting an alarm or putting it in my calendar or asking my co-founder to, be a backup and help me remember in case, it's something really important. And so it's just like setting these little, it's like setting guardrails for yourself to just keep you on the path that you want to go towards. So I hope that kind of answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, it does. It's just really interesting because, like, unfortunately, even in the term of ADHD, it has a negative connotation. That's the problem that I have with it. Is like attention deficit. I mean, it's literally in the definition of the word. And I heard who was this? One of my favorite spiritual guides. I've been listening to a lot lately. Myron Golden. He's got a really cool term for this. He goes, because he considers himself neurodivergent as well, and he goes. He's anti-establishment and kind of like me, but against like the DSM codes and like labeling people, because you really kind of sometimes feel stuck in that story once you do that. So I think one of the
Mm.
terms he was using is like, he goes, I don't have ADHD. He goes, I'm EC, and then they're like, what's EC? He goes, I'm extra creative. So what I love about that is just because unfortunately some of these terms, right? What's her name? Mel. What's the last name? Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins talks a lot about this too on her podcast and with a lot of people. Instead of saying like just reframing the term, so she goes, "Stop telling yourself you have anxiety, right? Or stop saying like I am anxious, right? Say whatever it is that you have anxiety about. You can say I have anxiety about this thing, or this thing is making me currently feel anxious." Instead of like defining yourself as an anxious person or as someone who has anxiety in general situations. It's more of like, if you can pinpoint to the thing that's causing it for you, then you have what's it called, a process, an outline of getting to the root cause of that so that you can ultimately overcome it. That's the point, right? So I think just in the reframe, in the words that we use and the pictures that we build in our heads, it's really powerful. So just for someone like me, I'm just sensitive to being stuck in like a DSM code or stuck with a term because, and you know what? If I am going to get stuck with a term, because I guess arguably there are some terms that I do like to get stuck with. Like I'm Jewish, I like that term. So there's terms that I do like to get stuck with. So I guess if I am going to get stuck with a term, I do like having that like extra creative, right? Instead of I don't have enough attention. I'm a deficit in attention. But I really like the spin you put because just the spin you put is it makes it, and arguably like you can't really argue if it's true or false, right? It's all a belief. It's all a story. Make it up in our head. So you can tell yourself, ooh, sometimes I lack attention and that's a huge deficit of mine and it's a huge con and I really hate this. I really dislike this about myself. Or you can say, well, there's a lot of things it does do for me. It gets me very excited about things. It allows me to focus my attention on multiple things, which by the way, that's can be a strength for a lot of people to be able to have a lot of things on your plate and manage those diligently. I mean, that's the goal, right? But so I like how you are kind of reframing it in that sense for people, and to have it feel like a strength. It sounds like you did that for yourself. So kudos. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I would like to say, sorry, and I would like to say that I feel like I don't know your personal story with the ADHD, but I feel like a lot of kids or children or adolescents, they struggle because they don't know what's wrong with them, and then they get that definition, someone telling them, hey, you have this ADHD and this is what it means about your brain. So that's super helpful, but at the same time a lot of people can take it into victimizing and being like, yeah, it's my ADHD and stuff. And a lot of people can take it to an empowering place, like I feel like that's what you're doing, Bill, but I feel like it was a journey to get there, right?
So I'm a unique case. I'm not officially diagnosed with ADHD. I never went to like a psychiatrist and got the official diagnosis. I've studied the crap out of it, read a lot of books, talked to a lot of people, confirmed it with therapists and stuff like that. But um, I was lucky, I suppose, that I wasn't diagnosed with it when I was younger because I never had somebody tell me, "Oh, you have ADHD, and this is what that means." And I think that's part of the problem is when you hear that when you're younger and someone tells you that's what this means, then they're defining you for yourself rather than leaving it up to you to create your own definition of what that means for you. And Jonathan, going back to a point that you made, the attention deficit. So the entire term ADHD is like archaic. Like it's so outdated and not fully defined. Um, ADHD isn't actually a deficit of attention at all because we have the ability to hyper focus on things for hours and get lost with so much focus. It's the occasional inability to direct that attention. And so sometimes we have the ability to hyper focus on something and we get lost and then we end up being late for a meeting or forgetting to eat or whatever and bad things. And then sometimes we just might not be able to call in that focus when we want to do that. And I think that that's kind of just like a human thing as opposed to specifically to neurodivergent people. I do think there's an argument that the idea of neurodivergence is kind of it's a spectrum. It's not like you're neurodivergent or you're not. It's like you're on this end of the spectrum or you're on this end of the spectrum or you're somewhere in between. And so that's why it's so hard to create definitions for these things. But I do think that and it all goes back to the stories that you tell yourself. Like as an entrepreneur, as a human being, as a friend, as a lover, whatever, how you talk to yourself, how you talk about yourself, the words that you say when you're talking to other people about yourself defines a lot of the actions that you end up taking. And so that was actually, so going back to the NLP thing, one of the things I'm learning about with NLP is it goes from your state determines your behavior, which determines your outcome. So if you want to change your outcome, you have to change your state, which means you have to change how you feel about yourself. You have to change your energy levels, and then tying this in with a little bit of like Tony Robbins stuff. If you're into that, he is very much about like coming out with a strong presence, like getting into that mindset of I'm going to go out there and I'm going to crush it before you ever even go out there. And it has a lot more to do with the stories in your head than it does to do with um, what you're actually saying. So like the nuance of how you say things, the tonality, stuff like that. So I'm getting kind of all over the place here, but long story short is don't define yourself by what other people say something is that you have. Create that definition for yourself.
Love that. Yeah.
I think it's cool as adults because maybe as kids we don't have the capacity to do this, but as adults we have the ability to bring awareness to things, right? And this is again kind of a common theme in a lot of our podcast episodes, but shining a light on all parts of yourself and bringing it in so that you can love it. And like anything else, a law of polarity proves that there's two sides to every coin. So again, it comes down to what story you're telling yourself about this ADHD coin. Like which side are you focused on? Are you focused on the side of the coin that allows you to get a lot of stuff done, to focus on a lot of things, to get really excited about certain things? Or are you focused on the side that maybe you forgot this or you forgot that, right? It's the same concept of, are you focusing on money consciousness and abundance and happiness and joy, or are you focusing on lack and all the things you don't have and all the things that makes you upset? So really interesting, really exciting. I've got another question. Do you have?
Go ahead.
Okay. Bill, I love the content you put out. I think it's very much aligned with me, and I think with this podcast. One of your latest reels, you talk about how we should all be embracing discomfort, and how that is really good for us and really challenging for us. So I guess I'm curious. Can you give us some more context? Like, why is it so empowering for people to focus on discomfort? Because if you try to sell that to someone, it doesn't sound so delicious, right? It doesn't sound so appetizing to be like, yeah, you should be uncomfortable. That'd be great. Yeah. Yeah. I'm using the wrong words today because she didn't have breakfast. So I should not be saying delicious and tasty and filling. So I guess that would be it, right? So like, what's your selling point to people? Like, hey, this is really good for you. I suggest you become uncomfortable in many areas of your life.
I would say that the reason I advocate for discomfort and for getting uncomfortable is because the more I get uncomfortable, the bigger my comfort zone becomes. And so as you get comfortable doing uncomfortable things, the amount of things that you can do with comfort increase. So again, going back to Tony Robbins there, how uncomfortable do you think it is for him to get out on stage and talk in front of 1 million people in a crowd? No, it's probably not very uncomfortable for him at this point. I'm sure he gets nerves and anxiety and whatever, but it's because he's done that so many times and he's stretched himself so many times that now he can do that thing without it feeling like really anxious and uncomfortable. And the same thing goes for almost anything in your life. What really did this for me, where I felt, oh man, I am all about pushing my comfort zone, was I did a leadership boot camp in Namibia in Africa. So a couple years ago, I got really, really obsessed with riding dirt bikes and going off-roading with the dirt bike. And after I went for the first time, I fell in love. I decided that I was going to look for some kind of like overseas dirt bike expedition type of thing where I could go somewhere cool and just ride off road. And I found a Facebook ad for this leadership boot camp where it was a dirt bike expedition by ex-military guys who are going to give you physical training, firearms training, first aid training, leadership training, teach you how to map out and lead expeditions on motorcycles. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds incredible. This also ties in with, I haven't talked about this much on podcasts, but when I was younger, that's why I got this tattoo as well, is when I was younger, I was more feminine than most men. I was a lot more in touch with my emotions and I was really sensitive and I didn't like loud noises and power tools and cars and all the stuff that other guys liked. I like a lot of things like that now, but I got bullied a lot for that when I was younger, and that ties in with the bullying stuff I was talking about. And so this leadership boot camp was also, it was all men. So it was something else that I was really uncomfortable around, was being around other men, especially men who were like military-esque, like very masculine type people. I just didn't have a lot of great male role models growing up. I didn't have a lot of great guy friends growing up. And so it was such a stretch for me. It's like I was going somewhere I'd never been. I was riding a dirt bike that I barely had any experience riding. I was going with a bunch of other guys who I didn't know any of them. I went by myself. And so it was just this massive expansion of my comfort zone. But the moment where I was like, okay, this completely defines why it's good to get uncomfortable. One of the things that they have us do is get in the ocean at like 5 a.m. when it's like 50 degrees outside, the sun's not up, and it's freezing. Like it's so cold. They make us link arms and walk out into the ocean. And the night before they had us do that, I was like this close to saying, screw this and calling it off and going home. I had so much anxiety. I was so stressed out. Um, but I pushed through it and I decided I came all this way. I may as well just do the damn thing. Worst case scenario, I can just opt out and just leave if it's too uncomfortable when I'm doing it. And they got us to the ocean in the morning. We all locked arms together. So we're arm in arm with each other. And we just walk out into the ocean. 5 a.m. Sun's not out. It's cold outside. And then he has us sit down and just take waves to the face, just repeatedly. And we just have to sit there in this cold water and just deal with being really uncomfortable. And at one point, I actually got blown over and the wave pushed me and like my back slid across the sand and my back got all scratched up and stuff. And I had to just get back up and just keep taking the waves to the face. This sounds miserable to most people. Like I'm describing this and a lot of people are going to be like, oh God, that sounds horrible. I would never want to do that. But the thing is, after I did that, it was not scary to me anymore. Like I can go do that. I survived it. I lived through it. And I'm here to tell the tale. I'm not any worse off from it. Yes, it was uncomfortable, but there were no negative lasting impacts from it. In fact, it was the opposite. There was a lot of positive things that came from that. I learned what I'm capable of. Like I learned that I can go to an ocean at 5 a.m. in Africa and sit in the water and just get battered by the waves and walk out and be stronger for it. And so I'm always looking at ways of, am I getting too comfortable in my life? Like, how can I get a little bit more uncomfortable and expand my ability of what I'm able to do? And it's like a confidence boost. There's just so many benefits of it. But I think I've rambled enough at this point. I'll let you guys say what you'd like to say.
I think that's beautiful. And I'm a strong believer of that, of doing stuff that are super uncomfortable for personal growth. Like, for men, it can be approaching women. For women, it can be, I don't know, some other thing. I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty empowering. And I like that a lot. You did mention being bullied for being more feminine.
Yeah, I just, so the reason I have a hummingbird on here, this whole arm is dedicated to my divine feminine side. And I'm working on the masculine. I'm going to get a matching one on this side when I feel like I've fully mastered it, which we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so the reason I got the hummingbird was because what the hummingbird represents, at least, long story short, I pulled a card out of a healing deck. Like it was healing cards or like oracle type cards, but more towards healing. And there's a lot of stuff I'm leaving out here, but for the sake of getting to the point, the card that I pulled was the hummingbird, and it talked about how the hummingbird is really good at like spreading joy and cultivating community and things like that. But it's also very fragile and sensitive, and it can be, destroyed really easily. And I really resonated with that because I have so much joy to give and I love sharing it and spreading it to people. And and this kind of ties into the ADHD thing too. If you want to take that frame, which you can or you don't have to, but a lot of people with ADHD also have rejection sensitivity. And so someone can look at us a weird way and we'll think that we did something wrong and we're being rejected. Or they can say something and we'll take it the wrong way and feel like they're rejecting us and they don't like us at all and we're just worthless, not good enough. This is a common theme among people who have been diagnosed with ADHD, is that they have this rejection sensitivity. But even if I don't take that frame and I just lean into my own personal stories and beliefs and how I've shown up in the world, I have been sensitive to rejection, and sensitivity doesn't tend to mix well with immature masculinity. Uh, Boys that, don't know how to regulate their emotions, lots of hormones, they're, just trying to fit in, they don't know what they're doing. It's easy for them to just bully and make fun of and just be on the side of the bulliers rather than being the bullied. Um, so I guess my point in all of that is because I was so hyper aware of my own emotions and the emotions of other people, and I was really sensitive to that. I'm very empathetic. And when I was younger, even to this day, sometimes I catch myself, but when I was younger, it would be really easy for me to just absorb people's emotions that were around me. So if anybody was feeling upset or angry or whatever, I would just instantly like feel whatever it was that they were feeling. And this has to do with partly in my home life, like I had to be really in tune with the emotions. Oh, are you guys lagging too? Or
Yeah,
is it
you're
just
good.
me?
You can continue.
Okay. So in my home life, I had to be really hyper aware of the emotions of the people around me because I was bullied at home too. Um, And so, yeah, that just taught me to be really sensitive. Sorry, the lagging kind of threw me off there, but it taught me to be really sensitive, and it was just too easy to hurt me when I was younger. It was just way too easy, and because I let other people hurt me easily, a lot of times they often would because it would make them feel powerful, or reframing that, it would be that I was already hurting myself before they even had the chance to, and that kind of almost invited that behavior if I want to take radical responsibility for things. So, uh, yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that for now. That was the experience that I had. It was high amounts of sensitivity.
Yeah, I can relate. I think a lot of people will be able to relate, ADHD or not. Um, Thank you for sharing. That was beautiful. I certainly see who you are today, and I really love who you're being today. Um, is there anything else that you would want to say to anyone listening?
Yeah, you can do it. Whatever it is that you want to do, like make that dream happen. The only thing stopping you from having the things that you want is you. And you can just make a decision to change that anytime you want.
I guess it was really nice. I think we probably should end on that, but I also want to. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you in this episode to just try to leave us with some like business advice. After all, you are a
Mm,
coach. You do help people with business. That is your focus. I'd love to give us two, and you've built a lot of successful businesses too. So give us 2, 3 pieces of advice for someone building their business, someone who's new and starting a business, or someone who's 5 years down the road looking to make tweaks. What's a couple pieces of advice you think would be helpful for someone who's maybe in your community, our community, looking to get to the next level?
yeah, totally. I appreciate you asking that. First piece of advice, I'll repeat what I just said. Uh, if there is something that you want and you don't have it, you can choose to change that by making a decision that you're going to have that thing. It's like I said, this has been a theme throughout this episode. The stories that we tell ourselves are constantly impacting the world around us. And so all we have to do to change what is around us is to change the stories inside of our head. Second piece of advice, and this is actually more important if I want to be self promotional, join Focus Founders. We have a free community for entrepreneurs and founders of all kinds. It's on school, SKOOL.com/focus-founders-free. anybody can join. Just go to that link, go to that URL and hit join, and we'll love to welcome you. Like I said, we do daily virtual co-working every morning, me and my partner Rex. And we also do in-person stuff here in Austin. We've got events that are going to be coming up. Last night we did a board game night for founders, which was really fun. And we've got lots of cool stuff planned in the future too, as well as retreats and things that we're doing. So that's totally free to join. And then obviously we have the paid coaching as well. If you want to talk to me about that, you can talk to me through there. And last piece of advice, I would say, figure out what's blocking you. Like, why do you not have the thing that you want? There's something in the way, whether it's like we talked about mindset, whether it's a money thing, you feel like you're not worthy, or it could literally just be as simple as you need to work harder and put in more hours. I find that's often not the case with entrepreneurs because we tend to work too much and burn ourselves out. But some people, they need that slap on the wrist and saying, hey, you're not getting what you wanted because you're only putting an hour a week in towards this. Like, you need to do more. So I think action in general, even if it's imperfect, is better than just kind of waffling around and trying to decide what you want.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Thanks for that. Great. All right. I'm complete too. Thanks, man, for joining us. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you,
All
Will.
right, Bill. Chat soon. See ya.